Hey, I'm Mark with Epic Genealogy. I'm here at a cemetery in Mesa, and I want to talk about Find a Grave and all the stories that we have right here in the cemetery. It's not always the happiest place, and I understand that none of us like to lose a loved one, but at the same time, we don't want to forget about them. So there's a bunch of but there's a bunch of stories that are here. And that's one of the things I want to explore. But before we get into that, if you're not subscribed to the channel, please go ahead and subscribe now and like the video, especially if you want to see more videos like this. And also leave a comment and let me know what you think of the video and what other topics you would like me to discuss. So, why the cemetery? Find a Grave is an awesome resource for finding information about those who have passed on. And there are a lot of cemeteries like this. There's one in Mesa, Arizona that actually doesn't have a Find a Grave. So that's something that I'm going to I'm going to be working on, at least starting that. And what I would mention about Find a Grave is that it is community-based, so you can get an account and you can start a memorial, or you can just transcribe photos that have already been uploaded. So there are memorials that are on Find a Grave, and then you can transcribe those. You can look at the picture and you can put the names and the dates in there so that they're searchable. So if someone goes on Google, yeah, you can get them on Google, but you can also obviously search them on Find a Grave. I just look and I see all the stories that are contained in here that shouldn't be forgotten, especially if they're our family. That there's a ton of stories that are right here that should never be forgotten. I guess that's one of the bad parts about it, you know, knowing that eventually somebody will stop saying our name. But it doesn't have to be. We can preserve the stories. So what I want to do is I want to go through and I want to look for some of the older ones. And not necessarily got to be something that matches my name. It doesn't and they don't have to be Sicilian, although being Sicilian always helps. You know, they don't have to be in Nostra Familia to try to look up a story. So maybe I will look for one or a few that are much older, you know, that they passed on quite, you know, a few decades ago, and that is something. And then what I can do is I can look up and find some information, go through and on Ancestry and on Google and find out some information and dig up the story, see what their life was like, maybe get some pictures and see what kind of life that they led. So, looks like we've got Strother E. Graff and Elizabeth M. Those seem to be fairly uncommon names, so that might work as far as one to look up. Just makes you wonder. I've always wondered, ever since I was a kid, just what kind of stories are behind the names. You know, and you see 1897 to 1977, all the things that happened, all the families, all the triumphs, all the tragedies, and families left behind. You know, it's really no surprise being in Mesa, Arizona, that they don't really have a large contingency of Sicilians buried here, or even Italians, but we'll see what we can get, because it's not a surprise. Wasn't a very big place for Sicilians to immigrate to, at least not 100 years ago that they didn't, but we'll find a few that may work out. Okay, I think I found one that's gonna fill my bias here for Sicilians. We have a Maggio, maybe that was the Maggio, and so we have George B, 1894 to 1992, and Catherine V, 1895 to 1990. That one may actually work, so we'll use that one. We'll use that one for sure, and we'll see if we can find. We'll look for one more that'll work out. You know, I was walking by and I saw this. I was like, this is Mesa, Arizona. I think this is a little bit out of place, but yeah, it turned out, yeah, it's fake. Yeah, I think we may have another, at least an Italian, Silvestiana Maldonado. That's not a common name, so that might work out. All right, I can't walk past someone named Mose. It's one of the best characters from one of my favorite shows. So we have Mose Jones. He's a World War I Navy vet. How cool. 1893 to 1976. So I'll use Mose Jones, the World War I vet, as another one that I'll look up and see what kind of story. So it'd be really interesting to what kind of story. I'm sure he's going to have a heck of a story being a World War I vet. I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of information regarding someone we are researching, and I'm picking the older ones not just out of respect, but it'll be a lot easier to get the documents, because if they, living back then, the census records are all available, so that's going to make it a lot easier to get the information. I may not be able to get an obituary, but that's what's so great about Find a Grave, is people can put the obituary on Find a Grave, so when we're looking things up, we can actually get a lot of information from the obituaries that are there. And just as we were leaving, I saw this one, Schwendemann, and that's looks like Carl in Florence, and it's such a fun name to say, Schwendemann. I think we'll do that one too. Schwendemann. Actually, it's Earl Schwendemann and his wife Florence. So just because I like the name so much, we'll look into that, and I'm sure they have a pretty interesting history. So that's going to wrap it up for this video. I'm Mark with Epic Genealogy. Make sure that you do subscribe, like I said, because the next video is going to have all the research that I do and the stories for the people that we found here today, including Mose Jones, our World War I veteran. That should be really interesting. So that's not going to be a boring story. So until next time, salud.